What is up, everybody? Ace here, and I am back. Going to be doing a UHC Season 26 recap. The footage that you are watching is from my vacation I did earlier in the month. This is driving back to Denver from Colorado Springs, getting a little bit turned around in the beginning. But yeah, UHC Season 26. It was done on amplified terrain, and it was the first time we did teams of 4 since season 16. So it's been a long time since we did teams of 4. We were going to do random teams of 3, but we had 16 people and decided to make teams of 4 instead, since we didn't have even number for teams of 3. So, and for my team, I was teamed up with Shastin, who I've teamed up with a few times before now, as well as Canuck and Cielo, who I have not teamed up with before. For Canuck, you can technically count the April Fool's UHC, but it's since it's not an official one, I'm not going to count it here. But other teams consisted of, let's see, the blue team was Nixer, Joda, Bagel, and Special. White team was Dennis, Panda, Weather, and Boo. And then the green team, the one to beat, was Tiny, Muckluck, as well as the Biggest Killer and Fire Eyes, two of the best people in the game on the same team. Now, of course, if last season had anything to say about that, with Nixer and Killer teaming up then, turns out it doesn't work so well. And let's see. I mentioned we were doing amplified terrain. My team started pretty far up high, right by a village, and I took damage within like the first 5 minutes to ruin my Iron Man bid pretty quickly. Along with this, let's see. Green team, which was Killer's team, was down the hill near us. And then the white and blue team spawned next to each other with Joda way down at the bottom, watching the white team jump into the river in front of him. Everybody except for Dennis, of course, who landed on the river bank and died and had to get a mulligan. But yeah, everybody pretty much had a pretty standard start. No notch apples for this season, so nobody got far ahead at all in the first episode. Yeah, I think that was a big thing about the first. That's like pretty much it for the first episode. Second episode was when things really took off, because we had the big twist of the season early on. Turns out that the first official death of all people went to the Biggest Killer, who, according to his team, he was trying to fight a creeper. He tried to block it off, but it made its way around his defenses, blew up, and knocked him back into lava. And so, not only did Killer die early, but he was the very first death of the season. On the second episode, not a good start for him. Not is the worst finish for him. It's the only time he's ever died first, and that early on top of it. So, and it blew the game wide open for the rest of us. And I was like, and now if Fire Eyes can die, then we definitely have a chance. And turns out that would be some foreshadowing for later. For the third and fourth episode, not really too much happened. Everybody did their caving, people finding diamonds, including us. We decided to go up onto the surface and move to a different location around the fifth episode. And then we had our little setback with Cielo digging into a ravine and falling to his death. Luckily, we were able to get all the stuff off of him, but it was a bit of a setback. But it was kind of short lived because then Fire Eyes felt his death, and watching his perspective, it was pretty bad. It was one of the two deaths this season that I felt bad for. His especially because his team was going across the ocean on boats, and he paused for a minute, and this drowned with a trident attacked him. I think he broke his boat, and Fire Eyes had to swim down to the ocean floor and dig in. Was nearly dead from the trident itself, but decided he was going to try to dig down, and dropped right into a cave and died. So it was pretty unfortunate for him. But because of that death, not only did it make up for losing Saolo, but it blew the game even more wide open. Because, it was pretty much anybody's game at that point. So, for us, we decided to go check out the Nether. We got our enchantments going just beforehand. Checked out the Nether, nothing too special there. And then decided to come back and do some last minute enchanting. I had a power 3 bow, and I think at least a level 2 on everything else. Canuck got himself to a power 4 bow, which is pretty cool. And then we decided we were going to dig up. We're on episode 6. We see that the white team's above us, and it turns out they were on their way to 0-0. Blue team was already there, and white team was on the way to 0-0, and they doubled back because of mobs, and that's when we saw them, was when they doubled back, and they ended up taking a different way around to the middle of the map. Blue team had stationed themselves on this really big cliffside, and the white team were like circling their way around one way. Green team was on the opposite side of the mountain, and we moved in on episode 7 to this kind of middle ground area. It was like an open field, like halfway up between the gigantic cliff and the lowlands around it. It was kind of an interesting situation for all of us, because blue team was kind of caught in the middle of everyone. The white team ended up getting split up, just having a hard time, I guess, keeping up with each other and communicating. Communication was kind of the big theme of the final episode. And my team were trying to decide if we should stay where we were or move somewhere else. I think Shawson didn't like the fact that we didn't have the high ground in our area, but we kind of had the high ground on the white and green team, and it was kind of middle ground in comparison to everybody else. So we kind of debated that for a little while. Meanwhile, the border's moving in, and then our next setback, which was arguably the bigger one of the two, Shawson's internet just completely dropped, and he disconnected from both the game and Discord, so he was just completely gone. So we had to. So it was kind of down to me and Canuck at that point. Luckily, Shawson would come back later, but at the time it was just the two of us. And I think the fact that the white team split up probably helped us out a lot, because it kind of divided everybody's attention. Because blue team decided that they were going to try to tunnel down, and as they're doing that, Panda and Boo ran into Tiny and Muck, and Tiny Stranger tried to set off some TNT, which he successfully did, but ended up blowing himself up in the process. He's the only person to die to TNT, and which is kind of interesting because TNT hasn't been used all that much, and usually when it's used, it's not terribly successful. Like, it's kind of effective in terms of keeping people away from you, but in terms of taking damage, the fuse, I guess, is a little too long for it to be terribly effective. But Tiny managed to kill himself with it. And then around the same time, Joda died to fall damage, and from my perspective, I thought he, like, got blown off the cliffside from the TNT or something. So I was waiting to see something like that happen, but what ended up actually happening was Joda was digging down. He saw that the green and white team were fighting beneath him. He dug out through, I think it was the bottom of a little overhang, and then tried to, I guess, sprint jump his way to keep up with whoever he was seeing. I think it was Boo, and he jumped a little too far down the hill and died. So, but then we had two battles going on at one time. At that point, there was Panda and Boo versus Naxer, Bagel, and Special, and Panda ended up killing both Naxer and Special Bra. Bagel was right in it, in the thick of it, for a little bit, and then she backed off to heal. She ran all the way away, dug herself into a wall, dropped her suspicious stew on the way, which I don't know if that would have changed anything in the long term, but it probably could have. It definitely would have made things more difficult in the future. But on our side of things, Canuck decided he was going to cross the bridge to where the blue team used to be. I was still, like, trying to decide what to do, but Canuck was like, I crossed the bridge, and I was like, oh, okay. So I followed after him, and as I'm crossing the bridge, Dennis managed to dig up into the area that we crossed into. From my perspective, he was already there, but it turns out that he just dug up a couple seconds beforehand. So we were shooting at each other. He hit me once, and I backed off. Water bucketed down the hillside a little bit. Ate an apple. Came back up. By that time, Canuck had killed Dennis, and then Weather popped up and killed Canuck. And then Weather ran around to the cliffside, hanging over the rest of the white team. We were fighting the blue team, and I chased him over there, knocked him off the cliff. It was a bit of a season 19 retry, I guess. Except this time I actually did get the kill on Weather. And then, so that was kill number 1 for me. And first time I got kills in 3 straight seasons. And so I run back to everybody's, all the dead guys' stuff, found a golden apple. During that time, Muckluck was actually digging up to me. I didn't see him the first time around, but on my way back, I saw there was a name tag behind me, so I set up this little wall and put a magma block down, and then I'm looking for him again, and it turns out Muckluck moved up above me and then dropped down on top of me, and this ended up being the turning point of the season, I think, because he got the jump on me, and he very nearly knocked me off the cliff to my death, but I managed to land on, like, the corner of a block behind me or something, and that ended up saving me. So we got a few hits on each other. The magma block, I think, did a bit of damage. He hopped back over the wall. I went to chase him, and then Shostin logged back in, and because he was outside the border, Lemons had to teleport him to me, because I was the only teammate left alive. That was the quickest way to get him out of the border, and so he ended up right on top of me. And so so there's kind of this awkward moment where I had backed off and wasn't really sure what to do, because I was supposed to be fighting Muck, but Shostin was suddenly here in front of me, and so so it was a bit of an awkward moment there, and then once Shostin finally loaded in, he saw Muck in front of him and knocked him off the cliff to his death, and that was the one I felt the most bad about, because, what do you do in that situation? it's definitely not fair to Muck, because he was fighting me, and now Shawson is suddenly here. But Shawson technically wasn't eliminated from, competition, so, you know, really the better thing would have been to teleport him to a location away from everybody else, but you would have to have some fast fingers to type in the exact coordinates of where he would need to be, and it's kind of tricky to do when someone's outside the border. So yeah, but it's I might have killed him anyways. I was digging my way towards him to do so, but Shawson got to him first, and 2 seasons of Shawson's internet troubles, and he still lands a kill. So that's pretty good for him. So we dig back up to the top, and I'm looking around. Panda and Boo had just killed the blue team. They actually go right in front of where Bagel dug in, and pause there for a second, and then decide they're going to pillar their way up the mountain to where I was. But I saw them on their way up, and shot at Panda, and I'm not sure if he just kind of gave up at this point, or if he was shielding. I don't know if he was shielding or not, because I managed to get 3 clean hits on him to kill him. But if he was shielding, then maybe my angle was too high, and I was shooting over his shield. But I expected more resistance, basically. But took care of him, and then on the way down, saw Boo and hit her once, and knocked her off to her death. I think there might have been a small argument that Boo might have actually just died to fall damage on her own in that one, because watching my footage back, when I hit her, she landed on a block behind her, and then stepped off of that to her death, and I'm not sure if that's because she slid off of it, or if she was already backing up, but it's... but I'll take it. It's definitely it's such a small thing going on in the middle of the fighting that I guess it doesn't really matter. That would be splitting hairs too much, I think. But at that point, it was just me and Shawson versus Bagel, and Bagel's on 3 hearts. And after a moment of a breather, I spot her down at the bottom of the mountain, and take a shot at her, I think I took a shot at her, missed. I was going to water bucket down to meet her, but saw her again and decided to take one more pot shot, and got her right in the face, and we won. For the first time ever, in 23 appearances, 25 seasons, I have finally won a UHC. And I did it in the way that you kind of, if you ever imagine yourself winning something, you usually picture it in the most dominant fashion, you carried your team to victory kind of thing. I would say that I definitely was the MVP of the team, because I got 4 kills and the winning kill, and Shawson has internet issues. Halo died in the ravine, and Canuck got 1 kill, but ended up dying to weather. So it kind of was the way that you usually imagine it, I guess, which was really cool. So it feels good to finally win one. It's a huge weight off my shoulders. And it just feels good. And considering the whole storyline going into it was pretty cool as well. Seeing, with Killer dying early and Fire Eyes dying, but we had the little setback with Cielo, and then the other setback was Shawson, disconnecting, and then Canuck dies, and at that point there's still, Weather, Panda, Boo, Naxer, Special, and RV, but then and Muck, so there were 7 other people ahead of me, and then I managed to get Weather, and then Naxer and Special die, and Bagel's really low on health, and then Shawson comes back, and I probably would have ended up taking down Mukluk, but probably would have lost more health at that point. And I didn't have any golden apples at the time, so if I had, gone after Bagel myself, would I have done the same things? Would I have survived it all? I don't know. But it was a pretty interesting storyline overall. So yeah, that was season 26. Let me look at the leaderboard, assuming that the recording is still recording. It looks like it is. So the leaderboard, pretty important here. So the biggest killer, not only did he die first, which gives him 1 point, and not only did he die in episode 2, which means he only gets 1 point, because he only survived 1 full episode, but his team was eliminated first out of everybody, so he gets 1 point for that. And since he has no kills this season and no bonuses this season, that means he only got 3 points out of this UHC. And so while he's still in the lead, he's only at 174 points, and 24 points behind him is me at 150. So I have jumped up into second place right now. But it's not a big lead by any means. Shawson's only 5 points behind me. Dennis is 10 points behind him. And Naxer is only 3 points behind him. So there's 13 points separating me from Naxer, and 38 points? 37 points separating Naxer from Killer. So it's a close one. And it's kind of come down to the 5 of us to win it. Unless some of the other people here can step up and have some really big dominant seasons. Let's see. Boo jumped up to 6th, and she actually is tied with Panda in 7th, but because she outlasted him, she gets the tiebreaker. They're both at 90 points, so they still have a little bit of ways to go. I think out of the two, I think Panda is probably the one that has the best chance of catching up to the rest of us, so long as he continues playing. RV Bagel is in 8th. She climbed 6 positions at 74 points. Zalpha fell down to 9th after not playing. Joda's in 10th. Tiny Stranger in 11th. Weather is in 12th. Scott fell down to 13th. Fire Eyes is in 14th. Dakota 15th. And then Rad is in the last position eligible for the championship in 16th with 47 points. The cutoff average, the points per season that I'm using for the championship cutoff is now 43 points, because honestly, I'd base it off of the points that the top player gets, and it's usually somewhere in the 40s instead of the 35 that I used to do. So this season is 43. Technically, Dakota is the last person within that cutoff line, because the total points is 43 times the number of seasons left, which is 4 or 3. Yeah. And technically 4. So 7 to 8 to 9. I might have to recalculate that, but right now I have it as Dakota. Shut up. Right now I have it as Dakota at the cutoff line with 124 points behind Killer, but Rad is 127 points behind, so she's kind of in this margin of error at this point. Then there's Muck, Canuck, and Special, who all gained a bunch of positions for playing. Then JMP, Fruit, Cookie, Jad, Murdoch, Mixon, Cielo returning for the first time in Series 3 in 25th, and then Ramon or Raymond and Hollywood for 27 people playing in this season, or in this series, I should say. So, leaderboard's looking pretty interesting. Looking at the overall leaderboard, Killer is still in the lead with 619 points. Nixer is in second at 575. Mary's still in third with 517, and I have 510 in fourth, and Mukluk is in fifth with 438. So, and I am far and away the person with the most appearances with 23. Nobody even has 20 appearances yet. Naxer and Canuck both have 19, so they're pretty close. Next season, if they play, they will hit that 20 season mark. Creepers are still in the lead for PvE deaths, although Falling gained a couple. They're tied for second with the Skeletons for 21 deaths. Lava got a death, or Lava got a kill with 8, and TNT is now on the board with 1. I don't think anybody died to mobs. I guess you could technically count Killer's Creeper incident as one of them, but his actual cause of death was the lava. In the medal count, there are 281 kills all time, so there's a good chance that next season we'll see the well, maybe not next season, but coming up, we're going to see our 300th kill, and that will be a bonus point, or a unique bonus category for whoever gets that. Killer's still in the lead with 37 kills. Naxer has 30, and I am in third with 15. I am halfway behind Naxer with the kills list. And an interesting thing is that I'm keeping track of the Grand Slam champions, which means you get all podium medals. That's gold, silver, and bronze for both the team and solo categories. And there are 3 people on that list as of this season. And that is the Biggest Killer, who did it a while ago, as well as myself and Shostin. We each have gold, silver, and bronze in all 3 categories. We have gold, silver, bronze in teams and solo categories. That's what I'm trying to say. Naxer's close. All he needs is a solo bronze. Cookie needs a solo silver if he ever plays again. I think those 2 are the next closest. Oh yeah, Mary would have needed a solo gold to join that club. Sir Maxis would have needed a solo bronze. Muck needs a solo gold to get the Grand Slam, so he just needs to be the best player on the winning team to get that one. And I'm sure he can. I'm sure that'll be no problem for him. Let's see, Iron Man. Naxer's still in the lead with 4. First kill. Shawson's still the only one with 3. And most kills is Naxer with 6. No notch apples this season. So, any special facts? My first win. Killer's lowest solo finish. No notch apples. Not really anything too crazy. 5 players with kills. We had some mountain fortifications going on. No real big bases anymore. 16 people played, which was the same as last season. We had 9 total kills, same as last season. And most kills number was 4, which was 1 more than last season. I also added in, along with the line graph that I have for the stat comparisons, I also added another bar graph that shows the points acquired by the top player per UHC. So this is how many points the best player in the season got. And it's pretty interesting because the majority of the time, the points are above 40, or at or above 40. There's only 3 seasons where it's below 40 points since season 11, which is when I started doing the current format for the points stuff. We have 2 seasons at 51, which was season 13 and 15, both of which were done by Killer. And then season 24, we had a 50-point season, also by Killer. For me, this season, I had 41 points. Season 17 was like 47, 40. Yeah, I think 47. I think that was by me. So, any other things? Walls of Fame. I gave myself the MVP because I got 4 kills in my first win. Cliffside Battles, that's pretty much the only fighting going on this season. The Gillette Pro Glide Smooth Move of the season I gave to myself for swimming down the waterfall to heal after I got hit by Dennis. I couldn't really find a better moment. Maybe RV Bagel hiding in the walls and managing to hide from Panda's team, or Panda and Boo, maybe. Triple kills or more. Nobody really got that. I got a double kill on Panda and Boo, and Panda got a double kill on Nixer and Special, but there was no real triple kill or more than that. Again, gave myself the I Shouldn't Be Alive award for almost getting knocked off the cliff by Mukluk. That was... I think these are warranted, if anybody has any better ideas. Man, I really gave it to myself on this one. While it's a shame, no team kills yet. It's pretty surprising. First episode death is just Dennis with the mulligan. And then worst death, I gave it to Mukluk for fighting me and then having Shawson spawn in last second. So yeah. That was season 26. Season 27 is going to take place, I believe, in September. It is kind of now up to Shawson to organize these. I handed the reins over to him. So he will be the one doing all the stuff for that. Which, maybe that's why I won, because I don't have to worry about organizing anymore. Who knows? Yeah. So, I guess the last thing I will address... let's talk about the Amplified stuff, because I usually talk about the gimmicks after the season. I think Amplified did pretty well. It kind of was... I wouldn't say it was a non-factor, but it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought going into it. I was expecting a lot of fall damage type deaths, and technically there were, because Weather got knocked off to his death, Muck did as well, Boo did as well. So, and you can count Dennis's mulligan as well. So I guess it did, but I thought that it would play a bigger role in that. I thought that the world border would catch some people trying to, scale the mountain. And it kind of almost did for Dennis and Weather, because during that final battle, as they dug up to where we were, they were getting chased by the border early on in that. But it definitely created an interesting platform for the combat, because some people tried to fight down low, and for everybody who went down low, it kind of became an even battle. It is definitely a high ground type of combat for this season. Is whoever had the high ground pretty much won every time. Unless it was Muck, unfortunately. Although I guess Shawson had the high ground at the very end, but Muck tried to get the high ground on me, and I got lucky. So, but yeah, pretty much every battle was high ground centric. Even when you think of like when Panda was taking on the blue team, he was kind of went up through this cave area and ended up. Well, no, I guess he and Nix are kind of on even terrain, but you know, it was pretty interesting seeing how there's fights going on the cliffside and then down in the river and stuff like that. It was pretty neat. So I think Amplified Terrain did pretty good, and we could definitely try it again in a future season. It's not up to me anymore, but not that it ever was, but it's not up to me to propose that. But definitely one that we can try another time. I am curious to see how next season is going to go. Season 25 was teams of 2, so we might try for teams of 3 again, I would think. So, who knows? We'll see. Hopefully I can attend that one. I got the internet for it. It's just, I did this season on a laptop at my friend's house in Massachusetts the day before the vacation. So, it was kind of a weird situation. And on top of that, I had this kind of overly complicated setup of using QuickTime Player to record video, and I had to do like sound siphon and another audio thing to like get the audio to work right, and all this, and it didn't even end up working right because everything except for my own voice was like an octave lower than normal. I'm not really sure why, but it all became it all worked out in the end. But like for this upcoming season, September is supposed to be the time that we're trying to get the house sold at the latest, and so I'm not sure if I have my desktop set up by then, and I'm not sure if like I'll be able to record on my laptop by then, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be in this house by then, and my primary I might be working by that time, and how much care will my dog need by that time. There's a lot to consider going into all that, but hopefully I'll be around, because the biggest question, I kind of answered it already talking about that, was I had the retirement plans episode, where I said that I was going to step away from UHCs if one of 3 things happened, which was either we reached season 30, we stopped playing UHC before season 30, which I don't think is going to happen, or I win a season. And I've won a season, but I don't have any plans to retire if I can help it, especially considering I'm second in points with 4 UHCs left. That was definitely the most we'll see option of the 3, and is definitely living up to that at this point, because like I said, second in points with 4 seasons left, and things are going well for me so far. So I want to see if I can grab that championship. I also want to see if I can get an Ironman award before then, because that is the one thing that has eluded me. And the 2 times I had 2 chances to get it, season 9, I was in the running and technically could have won that, because Dan took damage. Dan took an arrow from a skeleton at one point, but he didn't lose any hearts for it. But he stayed at full health because of that, because of his armor. And when we finally clashed, I took damage like almost immediately. And then in season 17, Bagel basically just outlived me by like half a minute. So yeah, that was probably the closest I got to Iron Man there. So who knows? Maybe Iron Man should be the next bid for me, because I've done everything else. I've gotten the win. I've I've gotten the first kill award. I've gotten the most kills award. I guess Notch Apple. I guess Eat a Notch Apple would be on the list as well. So I shouldn't be afraid of it next time I find one. But yeah, that's everything for me. I was trying to ride out the majority of this footage, where there's still like 2 minutes left. But hope you guys enjoyed watching. Hope you enjoyed this season, despite the audio issues. I'm glad I finally won a season. And hopefully I can continue this success and not fall from grace. You know, because I watched Mary win season 16, and season 17 he kind of had an okay season, then disappeared until season 20, and then had an okay season. Then I'm gonna try to continue to ride this wave of success. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching. I guess I'll let this continue recording, let this video play out for the final minute, and I shall see you all next time.